What is going on, everybody? Happy Monday. I'm BobbyFi back here with my man, Eric Sheets-Haber, and we are back playing competitive DFS sports for whatever that's worth. We had some strong run. You know, I've got shots of me tied for second with Sheets just behind me in the million with about 20 minutes to go in the PGA tournament yesterday. And we're going to talk some MMA, some NASCAR, but you know, it was a fun sweat this weekend. I just played the golf. We had a real shot to starting the day. You know, you get everybody within 4 strokes of the win, and you think you're going to have a good chance. And it was great. We had some great lineups out there, some great chances. It just it didn't quite come through with those lineups. It would have been really nice I would have just had a chance to chop the million, but for either of us to get it would have been certainly something special. It was still a really fun day though, huh, Sheets?
I clearly had the most fun playing DFS this past weekend than I've had. And the reason why is starting with our review, our first review of Golf Tuesday, and then our kind of like finalization, I guess, finalizing of our lineups on Wednesday. We talked about process, and we actually like applied it and showed everybody exactly at least what we were both doing. And to see it actually all play out over the weekend was so freaking cool. And then also this Saturday, I did this 4-hour live stream that I ended up like breaking like a zillion YouTube rules that might have gotten Bobby's YouTube channel canceled, but we'll see what happens. But everybody that was there seemed to have a great time. And we read over some MMA theory and did well in MMA, and the people that were there hopefully did also. And leading right into Sunday where, fortunately, you know, I had to go to my in-laws for Father's Day, and there was no TV there, and it was kind of like uncool to kind of just stare at your phone during dinner. But because of the rain delay, right, so much of it was kind of pushed back so that after dinner I can go back and still have like 2.5 hours to sweat the end. So, and we got right down to the end. And I'm a little less bummed about the result than Bobby is, again, because you know, for me it's process, and obviously we won, but you know, to win the million, you just got to put yourself in a position to do it. Then just variance has to happen. I don't mind.
Let me jump in real quick on that, because I'm actually less bummed than I would ordinarily be, 100%. If I would have had a real differentiator and somebody who was so unique that was up there, I would have had the knee. And by the way, I had 10% Neiman. I just didn't happen to have him in any of the lineups that mattered. If I would have had him in there where you really feel like you can differentiate, or Michael Tom, like even the guys who didn't quite make it at the end, or may have, you know, Ryan Palmer towards the end, he wasn't as owned as he was last week. I would have felt like I may have had a better chance. And I also knew that I could only tie with 3 people. So I would have been, you know, it would have been $250,000, which I would have been happy about. But I actually felt like looking at the one thing that was disappointing was, I do think if you look at the lineup by the time you're playing the first, second, third hole after the rain delay, I really feel like if you look at my lineup and your lineup even to some extent too, although I still had a couple, you had Hovland already done. I still had Fitzpatrick and Dustin Johnson going. Dustin Johnson missed a bunch of little 6-7 footers, which really hurt. Fitzpatrick missed a couple 5-footers. Like any of these things happen, you know, you don't get the chip in from Berger. This is variance, and this is how it happens. But it's very easy at the moment to go, oh God, if only this happens, I'm going to win all this money. But then you add it all up, and the truth is, you know, you got Brooks Koepka who did a 20-footer also for me. So there's, you know, it goes both ways, but it's frustrating when you feel like you've got potentially one of the favorite lineups to win the tournament, and the result coming that close, you don't get the money, the financial reward. Had any of these lineups been in any big tournaments, they would have won in a landslide. I'm sorry, big buy-in tournaments.
The other thing I will say that I sent you a quick video of it, and during the live stream, I kept referring to this like time and time again. I gave zillions of free publicity to Cut Sweats. Okay, that website was just basically the key to my sweats like all weekend. It basically, and it allowed me to sweat your lineups too, and anybody else I wanted an anti-sweat, for example. You know, like you could pull up anybody's slate, show you where they're leveraged, show you how they're doing, and whatever it is. And I every once in a while say, okay, you see the live stream. Let's see how Bobby's guys are doing. And it was so much easier than going on to like try to figure out where your lineups were in DraftKings or whatever, because it had this whole breakdown of who you had and how everybody was doing and stuff. And so I had a lot of fun with that.
Yeah. I mean, that Cut Sweats thing is something that definitely is worth checking out for those of you who haven't. Sheets, why don't you pull up your screen and give them a little bit of what we're talking about? Let me make sure I'm allowing you to first before we.
No, host disabled participants.
Okay, well let me allow this real quick.
Okay.
It's here we go. Allow participants to share screen. Should be ready now.
Okay, let's see.
Sorry, make sure it's ready in advance next time.
Okay, so first of all, I would like to talk about MMA because I'm not going to completely give the shout out yet to this person, but I looked at all different types of content for MMA, from the small guys to the big guys, looked my own game theory stuff together, and I entered like 20 or 25 lineups, and this is what ended up happening. Okay, and I actually went over this in the whatchamacallit, in the live stream, and this was kind of the key to it. So there was a guy who whatchamacallit, who was pulled out of the fight, and he was replaced by this guy whatchamacallit, what's his name? Oh, this is not the one I have. Hold on, where's my big one? Hold on. Let's go back.
So wait, you're saying?
No, that was the 300. Sorry.
Okay.
So there was this guy, whatchamacallit, Rashkov, okay, who was supposedly like the nuts. Okay, everybody was just all over this guy, and I heard. Now again, I couldn't. I can't find it. Whatever it is, but I read on one site that this guy Rashkov, who was incredibly high owned, was actually posted a tweet like just after he was announced that he hasn't been training in 3 weeks because of an injury, and within like 10 minutes that tweet was taken down. And it was a small little content provider that I was watching that said this, and I tried forever to confirm it and I couldn't do it. So I was very, very open with the live streamers. I said, listen, I'm playing like 75% of this Hubbard dude, and just for the hell of it. And, if, I can't confirm what all. And this guy, Rashkov, if you look at, look up YouTube, at the end of like the first round, he was begging his corner to throw in the towel. There's like all kinds of video on it. It's like a big controversy now. He was saying, I'm done, I'm done, I'm done. And the corner refused to throw in the towel. And they eventually did, and he basically got crushed. And that led to a really, really good result for us, pretty much across the board at MMA. So between that and a couple of guys we locked in, we really, that was, let's just say this, that was like a lot of fun. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So where was the golf? Let's see, golf. Where's PGA? Next page. Sorry.
So how did you end up on it? It looks like you made some money on it.
Yeah, I doubled my money. I cashed for like $1,100 on $500 in entries or something like that. So that was excellent. And for whatever reason, I can't. Oh, next page. Sorry. Let me get to the golf. Oh, there it is. Okay. So one more page, and then we get them all right. This sucks. You can't do it by sports?
No, you can.
How do you do it?
I'm a little confused though. Like I don't know why. Yeah, I don't understand. This is a weird one. Just do it by fantasy points. Sort by fantasy points. Just go to this.
That's a good idea, actually.
Oh, if they'll let you.
We got to go back to the first page then, right?
No, it should just. Yeah, I guess you'd have to at some point.
This sucks. I'm sorry, guys.
Sorry, guys, for the little bit of delay. But in the meantime, we can talk a little bit about the some of the PGA stuff. Like we talked a lot about like exactly what we wanted to do. Coming into this weekend. And we had like, basically Sheets had a really narrowed pool, and I was annoyed that my pool was still spread out because it was hard.
Here you go. I'm doing it by winnings. That's the easiest way to do it.
Yeah, that's a good way to go. But you can see Sheets right there with 2 top 25 finishes. And how many entries did you have, Sheets, in the million?
30, I think.
That's fantastic. That's just, it's very, very unlikely to play 30 entrants and head to put 2 in the top 25. But it shows, but also you really did stick to your guns on what you were going to do. Why don't you pull it up for us and take a look at some of those lineups?
Okay, so this is the one that we whatever. Now I also got 20th in that single entry, which is really, really strong.
I think this is the single entry one that you clicked on.
No, this is
yeah, it is a single entry.
Oh, this is the single entry. Sorry.
So let's take a look at that real quick as a single.
So
entry.
this one basically busted. This one had freaking Woodland, who couldn't freaking do anything.
Yeah.
Like, look at that. Like rounds 3 and 4, he was at 71 and 70.
Yeah.
And Finau at 9% going into round 4. If he just basically played like every freaking buddy else did, in round 4, that would have been terrific. So this was really, really strong. Now, if I just hit arrow and go
Yeah,
back
and then to point out one other thing, you'll notice the ownership percentages are much higher for some of the more obvious plays, the Woodland, the Thompson, and even Hovland and Hatton in the higher buy-in single entries and higher buy-in tournaments in general. They were very popular.
Yep.
But those were definitely the way to go. What I try to do is, and we'll talk about it in a minute, which when you get to your big lap, because I already know two of it. I know we shared a lot of the same guys on there. But
okay, so let's look at
the top one first.
The top one first. So I had 120 to 125th. The 25th is the one, by the way, that had Berger. Okay. So check this out. So there's nothing fancy, right? And we talked about this. There's nothing fancy about this lineup. And we talked about this. I wanted all the guys from 8 to 9K, and the only guys that were playing below 8K were Hovland and Harris English. And a little bit, and like one or two lineups of Stewart, right? And I talked about that from the beginning. And while you don't have anybody that's like 2% here, I mean, there's an 11, an 11, a 10, a 14. Okay, Webb Simpson was chalky, but I mean, I think this is, look, the fact is this only had one other lineup identical. This only had one duplicate out of 133,823 entries, so not bad for what somebody could consider maybe some chalkier plays.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that it's crazy because they're all, like, I like the ownership on all of them. It's fine, except for Simpson and Hatton are higher than you'd want, obviously.
Right.
But you could look at mine, which I'm just above you right there in 19th or 16th place, tied, just literally right above you. And we have the exact
same lineup with Fitzpatrick instead of Hovland.
With Fitzpatrick instead of Hovland. And basically I want, I went with Hovland in other ways, and it's kind of surprising I didn't actually have one with Hovland there too, but I really wanted to do something where I played Answer and Hatton together, and I really wanted to play DJ.
Now, let me ask you, did you do that on purpose, Answer and Hatton together?
Yeah, but I like to do it because in general, and it's not true across the board, obviously three other people have the same lineup as me, but if I'm going to play players who are fairly a bit more chalkier, a lineup is a little bit more on the chalkier side, I'm going to try and play guys all at the same price. If I like those guys, so you have Kopka and DJ who were $100 off, basically the same price. And then you have Answer and Hatton who are basically the same price. And even Fitzpatrick is just a little bit beneath them. So you get a little bit of usually people aren't going to build, they're going to make decisions between players in most DFS sports. They're not always going to say, well, I just like both of these guys, so I'm going to cram him all this range. Usually they want to pay up for a Justin Thomas or something like that. So I wanted to play those guys specifically the same lineups. Most of my lineups with Hatton have Answer in them. I'm sorry, yeah, most of my lineups with Answer have Hatton in them, excuse me. I had more Hatton overall than I did Answer. But yeah, so that's basically what I was thinking with the exact same, we have literally the exact same lineup except for Hovland versus Fitzpatrick. And to be honest, I mean, we could have done a little better. We could have played Ryan Palmer at the same price, but
well, let's talk about this. Let's talk about this for a second. So to be real, we're analyzing what happened to be the best performers of our lineups, right? So for example, this one, again, this is very similar to the others. This is my 25th place lineup. This has the same Hatton, Hovland, Answer, and Simpson, but this one had Berger and Finau instead of the other two, right? And I wasn't as you talk about process, I wasn't as nitpicky, I guess, even though you did 100 lineups or whatever, and I only did 30, 35. I wasn't as precise as maybe as you were. I honestly just picked all those guys and just shuffled them. You know what I mean? And played them all, and however construction happened. I didn't was as precise. I want to make sure that Answer is necessary with Hatton. But I guess I had so few players that it didn't make that much of a difference.
Yeah, and honestly, I would think it would be something that you would try and do more if you were making more lineups rather than less, to be honest. But it is a strategy that I've always played in all DFS sports. It's just the way that people's brain works. They generally try to pick between players in certain price ranges. And that's why, when I play let's say I'm playing two lineups on a baseball slate, for example, I might play one lineup with two spend up all the way up at pitcher and have a really cheap lineup that I like to stack. But in my other lineup, if I like, my point is that if I like two cheap pitchers and two expensive pitchers, I'm going to try and put those in the weird spots together. I would rather try and take anything I could to give myself a little bit of a differentiator. Now, obviously, the odd part is mine didn't actually differentiate. There was three other similar with the same lineups, but it's still, for the most part, it usually gets you a little bit more off of that standard, chalk stuff, because usually people are going to decide between the two of them. And if you like them both that much, there's really no no reason why you shouldn't play them together. In golf, I don't think it matters. You can just shuffle. I really think that way is just completely fine. I just think overall, I like the idea of if I'm going to like players and if I really think they're equal to, if I think Hatton is equal to Answer, or sorry, if Hatton is equal to Finau, I'll play my actually, I would like to play my Hatton, Answer, and Finau lineups together too. The more you can get them all in the same price range, it's just not the way that most people build.
So how did you do it? So did you like make groups or something like that? How did you accomplish that?
I handed everything at the end. I go through everything and whittle down and hand do every lineup. Yeah, I don't leave anything, except for in the I let my script leave in like the smaller buy-ins, or if I'm max entering, which I didn't quite max enter because it sold out before I could. So I just keep adding lineups to the ones that I like the most and then whittling down, getting different variations, things like that. But I want to have a hand element in all of my lineups that, I mean, I wouldn't, these are obviously not big buy-in lineups, but when you're playing for $1 million. So I'm going to try and at least, get my eyes to go get over once over. I might not change anything, but I usually am going to try and make little changes to try and get them more correlated to something that might be a little bit more off the scent of what everybody else is doing. Now, usually I would say on a week like this week, I would like to have had at least 2 golfers under 10%. And I don't like that my lineups didn't, but you make some sacrifices. Look, obviously it still worked out fine for us. Had we been able to get that Neiman guy in there, like Nate Knox did up over here at 2.5%, that would have been beautiful. The Daniel Berger, as great as he played, I think he ran incredibly lucky. For a golfer, he was hitting shots off of trees that were banking on. Actually, Webb Simpson did the same thing, banking on the course. He chips in, and the ball that might go way past the hole ends up holding it on 17. There was a lot of things that happened that were very, very fortunate for him. But he still is obviously a strong play. And anybody who's 10% on a slate after getting the win the week before and their price gets lowered should always at least have some ownership. The only problem is this tournament was just so bunched up. It was kind of a little bit of a crapshoot feeling, just in the sense that everybody was shooting such low numbers on Sunday, especially, and it just made me look forward to the days of the majors where you really can get some difference, and you're not just changing 5,000 spots on the lineup board based on every hole. You know what I mean?
Yeah, a couple of things I noticed. First of all, this guy D Katz, who got second all by himself, is basically the same lineup that I had, but with one difference. Actually, a more chalky difference. I didn't realize this guy would be so chalky, but it's a guy that you talked about in, I don't know whether it was Tuesday or Wednesday or both, but Ian Poulter, who I played 0 of, who you mentioned that you liked a decent amount.
Yeah, I did.
And he actually I'll tell you this, if I knew he'd be 17%, I would certainly play 0 of him, but he ended up, even though he was 17%, it's got this guy a clear second, so it's,
yeah. I believe he had something bizarre, like 4 out of 5 in his career's top 10s in that tournament going into. Okay. There was a lot of reasons to like him. The course suits him really well. He does well on small greens and all that. But this was just there's a lot of things that could have gone any which way based on down to the last 10 minutes of the tournament.
Yeah.
Sergio Garcia came out of nowhere. I actually played. That's what it would be more frustrating, but like I did. Sergio was one of my 10% guys.
You had 10% of him? That's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. I was all about it. At some point, these guys are going to put up a score that if they're in the hunt every time, they just aren't making any top 10s. They're going to get there one of these times. Sergio, another guy who can play well on these small greens, even though he's more of a bomber. There was a lot of guys to like and a lot of guys who played well. So it would be really hard to nitpick and criticize too many lineups because everybody put up such monster scores.
Hey, but before I forget, something that you just talked about, which is really, I hope people are listening. I really do, because this is really important. We talked about this a lot during basketball season and baseball season, and it reminded me of that. It's something that Bobby does a lot, which I really haven't heard any other expert really talk about. And something that he just referred to in kind of another way is where a lot of people struggle between playing one of 2 guys. Let's say they're 2 kind of like chalky, low mid-price guys in basketball or chalky mid-price guys in baseball. A lot of people will make groups to say, okay, I'm going to have one or the other. And with Bobby, does a lot. He says, I'll just take both of them. I'll figure out something else, and that little decision in and of itself makes his constructions just so much more unique than what anybody else is doing. And you're still playing 2 good plays, right? And it's not like you're doing anything fancy, by playing those two players, but the fact that you're constructing by playing the two of them together when everybody else is grouping them separately, that in and of itself makes your lineup a unique lineup with very little giveaway, right? As far as projections go. So I think that's really, really sharp. And I want to, before, we never have baseball and basketball again. I just want to just remind everybody that that's something Bobby really, really does like to do. And it's very, very strong stuff.
It's interesting because as I was talking about it, it just made me realize, God, how sad is it that we really are like hoping for a baseball season in 2021. I'm serious. I really think it's that bleak right now. And by the way, I'm sorry to be the bearer of, I don't want to go off on this, but I don't feel great about the NBA situation. I think that there's going to be a lot more. I'm not worried about the players' situation. I do think the combination of all the factors is the biggest worry. But the big thing is with the outbreak in Florida and the fact that because of Disney's deal with, the union and everything with all their employees, they have to let them leave and they cannot track them. But the NBA doesn't have the same deal, so they're going to track all the NBA players. There's something about that in this climate and everything else combined that, especially if the COVID stuff keeps going up like the way it's been the last few days, especially, it's worrisome to me. And I just hope I'm wrong. I hope to God I'm wrong. I hope the NBA goes. I miss the NBA more than anything. I would watch them play anywhere, any style, anything. I really am longing for basketball. But honestly, I can't just sit here and say that I feel great about any of these other sports soon. And
when is the NBA supposed to report?
July 30th. Well, July 30th is supposed to be the date of they actually start.
Well, whatever. But when are they supposed to report?
I don't know. They already changed the date of the start date, so I'm sure that's going to depend on whatever.
Really?
The reporting should be technically as little before as possible. So it should be the July 29th as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, really? So they're not going to have a training camp or anything like that? Or?
I think all of that stuff has to be figured out separately, or they could try and all do it there. But the longer they talk about this, unless the players are all going to have all their families, which they're already saying is too big of a thing, I just don't feel like we're out of the water yet. I hope we are. I hope I'm wrong. I hope that it's going to be all fine. I just feel like there's a lot of warning signs up there. But I don't know that specific answer to that question because technically they should be doing it right now, or they should be doing it wherever they can right now. Anyway, that's sort of where I'm at for that. And then football, look, football is the most likely. I think it's going to happen. Just when you start hearing about players already with coronavirus from football, doesn't make you feel good. I don't feel good about any college sports, but I do think that there's a chance. So we really got to focus in on our NASCAR, on our golf and on our MMA right now. That's what we've got.
What a gangster, Daniel Berger, taking next week off. Couldn't have won.
Yeah.
First place, then third place or second place. You know what? I'm spending the week with my family. Love it.
If I were him, I would never stop playing.
I know.
That is one thing to keep an eye out for the golf going forward, which we should definitely mention, and we haven't mentioned yet. Nick Watney testing positive after playing in this event on day one. We just have to keep an open mind that, look, it's likely that that at least one of these other guys is going to test positive in the next couple of weeks. Now, what we can hope is that the whole tour doesn't have that happen, and it's nice that they went out and played the rest of the tournament and all that stuff. But if we start getting, a few of these other guys, just make sure that you're going to have sort of double sweats. If you have people who are going to be able to play days 1 and 2 and even 3 in some cases, but maybe not day 4 because they have coronavirus, you're going to have some really weird golf sweats coming up. That's all I can tell you.
So one thing I would like to say is that, again, before we put last week's golf to bed, and again, not to toot my own horn or whatever, because sometimes the take is going to end up being bad, but despite the fact these guys did well in general, I can't believe they actually came back. Rahm, McIlroy, DeChambeau, Thomas, Morikawa, all those guys that I said I was playing 0 of, they all pretty much busted. I mean,
yeah, it's funny. They played great, especially Thomas and DeChambeau, but they busted. You didn't need them. You simply did not need them.
12K is rough business, man. I mean, that's a big salary when you got these other studs down here at 8,000. You know what I mean? It's
no, exactly. I mean, but the only thing in their favor that they had going was that there was guys that in the 6Ks shooting 17 unders also. So it could have gone that route. It just didn't happen to go that way. But it is.
So what do we get? So this week we're really pumped already. So we're gonna do our first Travelers probably preview tomorrow.
Yep.
and we'll finalize it Wednesday, same as usual.
Absolutely. And then we're going to talk about a little bit of NASCAR right now because you got the stuff.
Yeah. So this is what I'm going to say to you guys. If you see this in time, really, really messed up, because this happened before, by the way. So you look at my contests and you'll see under live, I entered some lineups in the NASCAR event for yesterday. I only did like 10 lineups or so, but it got rained out. And what they do, I don't know if this is smart or whatever, but they didn't refund anything. They just locked in everything. Those lineups carry over till today. And what they did is they put in the lobby, I'll show you, like kind of a second chance tournament, sort of. Yeah. $20K to first with the same lineups, not the same lineups, the same salaries, the same everything. So what's cool about it is this. So there's two things that are relevant. Number one is you can look through your lineups and everybody else's lineups and see what the ownerships of all these guys are, okay? Or you could earlier. Oh, yeah, there. So you could see what the ownerships of all these dudes are. So if you want to enter in today, you can, and we always talk about them, we're like, well, if he's going to be highly owned, then maybe I don't want him. If he's going to be really chalked, he'd be really low owned, maybe I'll want him. We always say, well, but you don't really know what the ownership's going to be. Here you actually know, at least based on whoever entered yesterday, what people liked, right? So you can kind of make adjustments to that. Like Gauguin is supposedly the best play, but frankly, he's only projects 1 or 2 points better than anybody else. So why take him at 45%? Like, for example, I'm not saying it's necessarily what you have to do, but it's a very, very unique situation. And another thing you could do, I mean, if you really want it to be nasty, but not nasty, but you can do a search, right, on export. So you could go into it too. What's that?
You can do it the way you were doing it too.
Well, how do you find the guys that way?
I just think he wasn't playing in this tournament. I don't know how that's possible, but maybe
no, he's playing. Maybe you could help me figure out, because I never.
You were searching for it just there. It should show him.
You can show me. I'll do it in a second. Hold on, I'll show you. Data, and then we're gonna hold on. We're gonna data sort, expand, and we're gonna sort by entry name.
Yeah.
And we're gonna pick who we're gonna all agree is probably one of the best NASCAR guys, if not a thing. Okay. So now, if you wanted to, you could look at all of Stevie TPFL's lineups from yesterday. Okay, and these are all locked in. These are his 50 lineups in the biggest buying tournament. And if you were really like this type of person, you probably could just cut and paste this in today's entries in some way and completely duplicate a total experts plays. Now again, ownerships might not exactly be the same or whatever it is, but it's kind of in a weird way screwed up. They're running the exact same slate. You know what I mean? Like the next day. But so show me how you do it here. Like how do you do it here? There's so many entries.
I just sort by name over there too.
What's that?
I click on the team name and then I just sort that way.
Right, but if you do that,
takes you right to them. Should.
No. There's just so many guys.
Dude, I've never seen this before. I've never had that problem before in my life, so I don't know.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. What am I doing wrong? Anything?
I don't know. I honestly can't understand how that's.
It's only showing a certain amount, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. Or maybe there's like a deal. I don't know. Maybe they made maybe you can request having your name taken off there. I don't know. See, do one of the other things. Who's another big NASCAR player? Do we know of any?
Well, I'm sure the Big T's in here,
right?
There's no possible way he's not in this.
All right. Well, maybe you're right. I honestly don't know why it's like that, but either way, you can do it the export way, I guess, if you must. But that does seem like that is weird to me. I haven't run into that issue personally before.
Right here, look here. You look here. Big T's got 150 lineups.
Yeah.
But when you go into the DraftKings one, can't find anything.
Okay, that's maybe that might be specific to this tournament. So because they made
No, I'm telling you, I've had these issues before.
Really?
So,
Okay.
just because the sheer number of entries, I think. That's why I think you have to do it this way. Do the export. But whatever, the point is that you can find out who the best players played before you have to play them in a way. You know, it's a very interesting thing to think about. So I am going to do a little of this is what I'm going to do. I'm not going to do it right now, but I'm going to do it before we start. So what I did was this for today. This is for upcoming. So for upcoming, we go to lineups, and what I did, it's kind of a weird. I don't know if you follow any of this, but it's a weird track in that you basically want to take everybody from behind, and nobody in the top 10 has any chance to win. So you end up with like leaving 5,000 on the table usually. So I'm starting with this, and I'm going to slowly but surely like filter guys in that, you know, they're in the 15 to 25.
And what time does it start?
This starts in about 2 hours maybe.
Oh, okay. So give you some time to do that. Give us some time to load the video. Hopefully you guys can take a look at this. Sheets, anything else we want to get into? Because I think we should probably cut out here soon so we can get this up there for the people.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Yeah, hey man, great run. It was pretty fun and exciting to see your name and trying to reach you on Sunday and looking over there. And the easiest way to find Sheets on Sunday was to find him on the leaderboard because I couldn't reach him personally.
Oh, I like that. I just say, if you can't find me on Twitch, you can't find me on Twitter, you can't find me on email, just look at the top of the leaderboard. That's where
I may have to change my Twitter name, my Twitter what do they call description to that.
I like it.
A good one.
Love it.
All right, Sheets. Good to be here with you guys. Hey, thanks for tuning in. Everybody out there, good luck to you. Hit us up on Twitter. Hit us up on our YouTube channel. Ask any questions. Until then, stay safe and good luck.